Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll take a look at the COUNTIF and SUMIF functions, as well as the COUNTIFs and SUMIFs variations. For this lecture, we'll go back to the sample sales data spreadsheet that we used throughout the last section. And let's start by having a look at the COUNTIF function. In our spreadsheet here, we have a column for our customer names, and I would like to count up how many orders a particular customer has made. So let's look at our customer in our first row, which is the Land of Toys Inc. And let's now use the COUNTIF function to count up all of their orders. Underneath our column here, let's enter our function. So we'll have equals, and then our function name, which is COUNTIF, and we'll autocomplete this. And then we need to provide our first argument, and this is the range. The range is the column or data that we want to search in, which in our case is just our customer name column, which is column N. So with our bottom value selected here, we'll press Ctrl plus Shift plus up arrow, and then our criteria will be the name of the customer that we want to search for, which was Land of Toys Inc. So let's put this in quotes, and then also after Inc we had a full stop, and then we'll close our quotes and hit enter. So Excel has now looked through this column and found that this company has ordered from us 49 different times. And this is how we can use the COUNTIF function to count the number of occurrences based on a condition. But let's say that we also wanted an additional condition. So maybe we want to count the number of orders that this company made, but only in 2003. To do this, we can use the COUNTIFs function as opposed to COUNTIF. Off to the right of our current COUNTIF function, let's create our COUNTIFs. And our first argument will be the same as before. So our first range and criteria will be column N, and then our range will be Land of Toys Inc. But then the difference between COUNTIF and COUNTIFs is that with COUNTIFs we can specify another range and another criteria. So our next range will be the year ID in column J, and then our criteria will be 2003. And this time we get the result of 8. So in 2003, Land of Toys Inc. placed 8 orders with us. And if we change our year here to be 2004, we'll see that they placed 41 orders, so a big increase year on year. And if we needed to, we could also add more criteria here to our COUNTIFs function, but we'll just leave it as 2. Next up, let's have a look at the COUNTA function. COUNTA can be used to count the number of cells in a cell range that are not blank. And by not blank, this refers to any cell that contains either numbers, text, logical values, errors, spaces, or empty spaces. And an empty space is simply when we have quotes in a cell, but with no value inside. If we take a look down our state column, we can see that we have quite a lot of blank cells. And let's now use COUNTA to see how many populated cells we have in this column. We'll start with our function name, which is COUNTA, and then we'll just provide our value, which will be the entirety of our state column, which is in column S. And then we can quickly and easily see here that we have 1,338 rows that do contain values, which is only around half of the total dataset size. And then to finish off, we'll have a look at the SUMIF and the SUMIFs functions. Both of these work in a similar way to COUNTIF and COUNTIFs, but instead of counting the number of occurrences, they sum the numbers instead. In our dataset, we have a column for the product line, and that tells us what the product line for each order was. Here in column E, we also have information on the sales amount for that particular order too. So we could just use the sum function to sum all of our orders up, but let's say that instead we only want to sum up the value of our orders where the product line was a motorcycle. And to do this, we can use the SUMIF function. Over here, off to the right of our dataset, I'll create our function. So we'll call SUMIF, and then we can provide our arguments, and the first of which is our range. Again, the range is the column that we want to search in, and here we're searching our product line column, which we have in column K. So we'll select the entire column, and then our criteria is motorcycles. So let's enter that in some quotes. And finally, we need to enter the values which we want to sum. And this will be our sales column in column E. Let's quickly format this cell as a currency. still go for US dollars. And you can see here that our sum came out at around 1.1 million US dollars for all of our motorcycle sales. If you wanted to add in another criteria, we could use the SUMIFs function instead. As an example, let's add an additional criteria to look at the sum of the orders where the order has been disputed. So in cell AA4, I'll start our SUMIFs function, and then this time we need to enter our sum range first, which will be in column E. So I'll select the entire column, and now we've got our sum range, we need to add our first criteria range, and this will be the same as last time. So we'll select our product line column, and then for our criteria, we will specify motorcycles. But the difference now, compared to last time, is that we get to add a second criteria. Our second range will be our status in column G, and then we want to look at orders that have been disputed. So we'll enter this for our second criteria. And then if we format this as a currency, we can see we get a total of $31,821.90. And this is it for our first part on some of the mathematical functions available in Excel. We'll continue looking at mathematical functions in the next lecture, where we'll have a look at the sequence, large and small, and rank functions. So I'll see you in the next lecture.